Attention, due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Yee! The South will rise again. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 59 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and today we are possibly discussing the movie that really should have been almost our opening to this podcast.
This should have been called Civil Gore the Movie.
It really, really should have, based on the topic of it and the excessive amount of gore. And this is a record. And this is the second week in a row we got a listener-suggested movie that was fantastic, that we both loved. Yeah. So, thank you, David.
Yeah, this movie inspired me. I might have to kill off Brian now and just make my own Southern podcast.
Oh boy, I better watch out. And actually, I ordered it already because Best Buy has it on Blu-ray for $7.99. So I ordered it today after I had rented it on Amazon, and then realized I'm like, you know what, I should have just bought it, but I want to make sure I got it to watch it over the weekend. With plenty of time to spare. So, but now I quickly added that to my collection. And then there's also a sequel to this, which I need to see. And Tim got to see the original, which I want to see. So,
this is gonna be a fun episode.
Yeah, this should be good.
All right. Well, let's get right up to our first chop. All right, so first up, I threw this one in. It's not really horror. This is a true crime documentary on Netflix. I know that horror fans and true crime fans, I think, kind of cross over a little bit because
they do.
True crime is really the most terrifying thing to me than anything in a horror movie. But this one was really cool. This one's called Evil Genius. It's on Netflix. It's a 4-part documentary, and it's by the Duplass brothers, which is cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they produced it.
Oh my God, they do everything great.
Yeah, so that'll be good. This one's about the 2003 collar bomb bank robber. And let me tell you, there are so many twists and turns in this case. It is the craziest true crime case you're ever going to run across. It's got murder, it's got robbery, it's got evil geniuses, it's got crazy people. It's insane. Well worth I think each episode is probably like 45 minutes. And again, 4-parter. Evil Genius on Netflix. Highly, highly recommended.
Yeah, I never heard of that case, but I know I really love that Golden State Killer one that I watched. So this seems like something right up my alley too. Because you're right, it's like there is like a crossover, because obviously you said there's nothing more horrific than hearing true horror stories like that. So I'm sure a lot of the horror movies, if not all of them, the horror we watch now is based on some sort of something that scared somebody at some point. So it's so these are actually usually really interesting, and you've already piqued my interest just by that little description. So I'm actually really looking forward to checking this one out. Although I'm like backed up now with tons of stuff now. It's like I have my own little backlog project because I have so many things saved I want to see between Netflix and Amazon Prime. And thanks to Tim, he got me hooked on that even though it's not horror related, but Cobra Kai on Netflix Red, which is amazing. Actually, a couple episodes of those left. I went for the free trial of YouTube Red. So once I'm done with it, I can cancel.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do as well.
Until season 2 comes out, and then I'll buy it again for a month. But
so next up is my alphabet project continues. This one I went off track a little bit because there was a movie coming out that just happened to fit the letter I was on, which is letter D. And
look at that.
Yeah, D in this case stands for Desolation. This is the new movie that dropped on Netflix. And this one was the one we talked about in our Discmemberment, actually, about the family getting stalked by a hitchhiker in the woods or whatever.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, this one, it's a brisk little movie. I think it's only about like 76 minutes, something like that. And I will have to say it's the phrase that kept coming in my mind was a taut little thriller. I don't know how else to describe it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's very horror. It's definitely more in the thriller category, but basically the gist of it is a mom, her son, and her best friend the boy's dad has died. They go hiking out in the woods. I guess the dad was a big hiker camper, so they go hiking out in this woods to this spot that the dad went to. Just kind of a cathartic experience, to kind of get over the loss and mourn the loss of his dad. And while they're out there, they start getting followed by this guy in sunglasses and long hair that kind of just watches them from a distance. And it continues on from there, and obviously things.
So basically, Roddy Piper from They Live.
Well, here's my flaw for the movie. I just didn't find the guy that was stalking them very scary. He looked kind of cool. His sunglasses are kind of cool, actually.
Oh, see, that kind of takes away.
I know.
Like a creepy guy.
He didn't look very creepy to me. He just looked kind of like an old rocker guy, and he had the cool sunglasses. And I was like, I probably would have gone up and asked him if he wanted a beer or something. I was like, he's not like terrifying. So that kind of took a little bit away from the movie. And the resolution was a little unsatisfactory to me. Wow. But overall, it was still worth a watch. I mean, it's still entertaining. And the performances are great. They did a great job with just the character development and making you feel for these characters. So in that respect, they really nailed it. I don't know if it was really scary per se, but I would say it's worth a watch. I mean, it's on Netflix. You're not paying anything for it other than your Netflix
might as well, right?
Sub. So yeah, I would go for it. I'd give it a kind of a mid-range review.
You know what stinks? You're 1 week off. If you would have started a week later, you would have lined up H with when Hereditary comes out.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm going to see that one regardless.
You're 1 week off. Maybe. Well, there's no rule, right? You can't skip a week and put it on hold for a week, right? And then
I could.
Catch up.
Certainly. Yeah.
Because what better H? I mean, the more I see about that, the more it looks cool. Like, I mean, I'll still hold my judgment to whether it's the scariest film ever made, like they always say. But it's still it looks good anyway. That's the thing. It looks really good. So even if I don't need it to be the scariest movie ever. I just want it to be a solid entry into horror. So.
Yeah, that's all I need. All right. So next up, some sad news to report, which I just found out today, was that we lost Margot Kidder. Most people know her as Lois Lane from the Superman films, but we horror fans know her from Black Christmas, the Amityville Horror, Tales from the Crypt, Sisters, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I mean, she was in a ton. That's just a small sampling. She was in a ton of other horror series and things on television.
Yeah, she's
voiceovers and kinds of things. So
got a long list of credits.
And I think I relayed this story on an earlier podcast, but she was one of the nicest celebrities we met at the PopCon we had about 5 years ago here in town. And actually, she was the first celebrity we met when we went in. She was sitting all by herself at a little table doing a crossword puzzle. I felt so sorry for her. Oh. But I was kind of nervous.
What's wrong? Why wouldn't people be going up to her?
There was nobody at this convention. It was crazy. But anyway.
Okay.
I was both scared and nervous because, this was, to me, was Lois Lane from when I was a little kid. And we went up to her, and she was just the sweetest, nicest lady. So charming. Everything you would hope that she would be in real life, she was. I was relaying the story that our friend Tony had come because he's a huge Superman fan. And that was the one person he wanted to meet. He had a Superman 3 shirt on, which she thought was hysterical because she famously had her role in that movie reduced because she got in an argument with the producers, right? So the fact that
hardly in that,
right? So the fact that he had a Superman 3 shirt on, she just thought was delightful, and so she told us stories about the making of the films. She told us stories about Richard Pryor. She posed as Lois Lane in the arms of Superman with Tony, so he was doing the Superman pose, and she was in his arms. I mean, she was just an awesome, incredible person, and we talked for a long time with her, and she's lovely, lovely lady, and I'm really, really sad. This really bummed me out today to hear that she had passed. But she did pass peacefully in her sleep, so it's been reported. So
no matter what, I mean, sorry, Kate Bosworth, Terry Hatcher, and Amy Adams, but this is will always be my Lois Lane. It's probably one of my earliest celebrity crushes as growing up, and seeing the Lois Lane, and I mean, if you think about it, like almost 2 years straight, we lost someone of that type of caliber. I mean, in terms of with Carrie Fisher, then Margot Kidder, two iconic women characters that our generation grew up with as such a major, character that we followed, and so it's like, this one, this one's rough.
You have these celebrities that kind of feel like your screen mom. There's these mom types because you were little when you saw them. Yeah, and you kind of look up to them in that mom type way, and Carrie Fisher was like that to me. Margot Kidder was like that to me.
Yeah,
Dee Wallace still is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but so at least her movies and stuff live on. We could still go back and watch her wonderful performances, especially in Black Christmas. She basically stole that movie.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and I mean, even though it's not horror related, it's like, I mean, I like Superman 1 and 2 are two of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, definitely they kind of went a little south after.
Yeah.
No pun intended based on this episode, but yeah, after 1 and 2 were just so great, and then
was that a slur, Brian?
Had its charm. No,
were you disrespecting me and mine?
No, I was not. I said it was, that's why I clarified it. But it was, it's like obviously 3 had its moments though, at least 3 was kind of cool and funny, but even though it was a total comedy as opposed to a drastic contrast to the
How
other
could
two.
it not be?
And
With
4
Richard
was
Pryor?
just
Jeez.
And 4 was a disaster. We actually spoke about last week. Remember with
right? Yeah,
Jay Fury and his abomination of a Superman movie, but yeah. So which no surprise that technically when the Superman Returns came out, it was basically almost it was like kind of like a sequel to Superman 2. So it kind of took place right after that. Kind of wiping out the mythology of 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, then again, it was a very loose, obviously sequel to 2. But well, who knows? People can argue it's not in the same universe. Who knows? But yeah. So this one's a sad one. The last couple of years, I tell you. But I mean, we're at that age where we grew up with these people, and now they're
right. Yeah, I get to that age.
But yeah. Makes us feel old, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, at least some happier news. We have a new horror anthology as a go at Netflix. This is called 10 After Midnight, and it's going to be produced by Guillermo del Toro, and it's going to be individual episodes like Black Mirror. So that sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Guillermo del Toro needs no description or introduction.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be an awesome series. I can't imagine if not being the top ranked horror show on Netflix is going to be right up there in the top 3. I'll tell you.
I love that he's not straight horror. He's more of like a dark fantasy horror. He always brings that fantastical element into it. So that should be a really interesting, other than like your run of the mill Tales from the Crypt. Not that those series weren't spectacular, but since I've been watching like Twilight Zone and Tales from the Crypt and Night Gallery, and I've been watching all these back to back, you start seeing some of the same recurring themes over and over, and the same plot lines used over and over. So I'm sure he's going to bring something really unique to the table.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. So I'm sure we'll have, as soon as we have more news on this one. And that was actually good. Steve Cohn had sent me the link to that so I could find out some more info. So once again, thank you, Steve Cohn. And it was not Friday the 13th, the game related.
That's right. That. That's our man on the ground, Steve Cohn.
Yes, Steve Cohn, the man who I don't know what he does for a living all day except find us material. But other than that, no. We always tease him. We're like, do you just go into work and like surf the internet?
Yeah,
but no, he's just very quick with what he does.
Right.
And he gets a lot of alerts on Twitter.
The next one up is Sharknado 6 has a date. It's airing on Sunday, August 19th, which means I need to watch Sharknado 5 before then. I have still not seen 5, believe it or not.
Yeah, because 5 has the ending that will lead directly into this one. So you'll need to see 5. As if, like, there's, like, really, like, if you need to follow the plot of this, I mean, it's pretty much, hey, guess what? Another Sharknado has appeared.
Now, do you think this is truly the last one?
Well, I think it's definitely the last one with this group. And I think they wanted to stop because they know if they went to the next one in 7, they'd have to include The Rock because that's the rule nowadays.
Oh, that's right.
The 7th, The Rock. If you do so many sequels, The Rock has to be included into the franchise. And I don't think this sci-fi can afford The Rock.
No, they can't afford The Rock.
Not anymore. So so they kind of have to end it at this point. Now, would not be stunned if they came out with another one. I just don't think it would have this group. I think this group has run its course. I mean, and it's going to be sad to miss it because it is kind of like an annual fun event, where you get to watch it, and there's always a amazing amount of cameos, and pop culture references to just make it really, really fun. But I'm sure sci-fi will come up with something equally as exciting down the road once their Sharknado's gone. I mean, we came up with a couple ourselves, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Bull
did.
Sharknado and Nurse Sharknado. We had all those, so they could kind of.
Oh, we got tons of Kickstarters they can steal from.
That's right. Maybe now's the time. We should start going right now, and start sending them in because they're going to need to fill that void. I mean, Ghost in the Casket though is not for sale.
That's not. That's our Oscar winner.
Yeah, that's going to be.
That's our highbrow art movie.
Right. So they're not getting that one, but they could get Water Zombies. They could get.
Oh my God! I was watching an episode of Fear the Walking Dead the other night, and this lady fell in the water and these zombies came out, and I just impulsively screamed, "Water zombies!"
Stolen again.
They stole
All right,
again, yeah.
We got to
Such
start
a
getting.
Yeah,
we really got to start producing some of these things. I'll tell you.
Not that we didn't steal it from Creepshow, but
no. Well, we named it though. They did not. They were not called water zombies back then. I don't know what they were called, but they were not water zombies. That reference was ours.
Okay.
Although the movie Zombie actually had water zombies in it, didn't it?
And he fought sharks, which brings us full circle back to Sharknado.
Right, look at that. So I guess we're just big rip-off artists ourselves, so I don't know.
No, we take good ideas and we perfect them. That's what we do.
That's true. Yeah, right. Or we give homage. So good spin on that one, Tim.
All right, Brian. So I'm excited to hear about this next one. This was SarGAD, aka Wounded, by Sarah. I'm going to kill her name, Sarah Gertzky.
That's how I pronounce it. So Sarah, if you're listening, I apologize. It's we're not great at pronouncing names.
As you well know, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, we're terrible at names unless they're American.
Yeah, that's why I always refer to you as SarahOfHorror when we mention you. But yeah, that's her Twitter handle and Instagram. And like I said, mentioned last time, she's also co-host of Bitches of Horror on YouTube, which is her podcast. And she was also actually a former MMA fighter, which I found out through some trivia, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. So it's she's got a lot of talents. And actually, in this movie specifically, she not only starred in it, she was the writer, and she did the effects on it, which were phenomenal. So, yeah, so she's very multi-talented. So I'll read to you the description here. It's SarGAD is about a young woman, Alina, that drives to a cabin with her mom and younger sister to spread her dad's ashes. They encounter three brothers that will make their weekend a living hell. So just the plot is it's based on that. You can tell it's definitely, I had mentioned earlier, it's one of those revenge flicks, similar to I Spit on Your Grave, stuff like that. So just to go into it, I don't want to go into too many details, of course, because Tim has not seen it yet, and I know I don't know how many people have gotten to see it yet, but it was a really, really well done film. Definitely has an indie feel, and I like to reiterate this when Tim and I say that is not a bad thing at all. Some people will think of that as a negative connotation. We don't on this podcast, because I got news for you. I have seen so many more indie films that are thousands of times better than any of the big budget stuff that's out there.
Right.
So it's got a great indie feel. It is in Swedish with English subtitles, but that's not I'm not one of those people that really don't mind subtitles, so it doesn't bother me. And I prefer that to when they do bad dubbing, so I'd rather see that. So the cast, I'll go into basics. Basically, the cast was fantastic. Sarah was incredible herself. The three brothers were all great. I mean, basically everyone in this movie was top notch, and they were all in on it, and they did a really good job. And actually, her own mom played her mom in the movie too, who did a fantastic job. And I don't know if this was, her mom, if she did any kind of acting before, but if she didn't, you would not know because she was that good in it. So there's definitely a slow build up to it, but which really made it work for this movie. And like Tim and I have mentioned before, we don't mind the slow burn, we don't mind the slow build up. And the way it works in this is it kind of lulls you in to this, but yet while still creating this sense of dread going on, like something's not right, and they do a great job of kind of bringing you through it without with you not quite knowing what's going to happen or what's kind of wrong, but there's something wrong, which is always a really cool thing. When it has you keep you on your toes and guessing. The effects were top notch. In fact, there was a couple of scenes where I literally was like cringing. It was like, you're like, oh, which always to me is a great sign of a horror movie, because obviously it's not real. So if they can make you cringe regardless, that's a plus in my book. And well, without giving you details, I will say there is one scene that you cannot get out of your mind in this movie that you will see. So
Ooh, I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, it's really got to see it. And I know she's still, I think she had a few left it was part of the Kickstarter, the disc. So I ordered the disc through her Instagram. You can, we'll put the links to her, where you can contact her to get this. So hopefully she'll have some left, by the time this drops. And she also, she has a Patreon page. I think you may be able to find out some more information there. But like I said, we'll put that down there. And also the disc I got was great. It was actually autographed, which was nice. And it contains 2 other shorts she did called Rotten Love and Mimes, which are also very excellent. So she's definitely a very talented filmmaker, and I look forward to whatever else she's got coming her way. So yeah, so check that out, SarGad, if you can, or SarGad. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, but yeah. So, but it's really, really cool. I really enjoyed it, so I'm really glad I ordered that.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I love taking chances on films and they turn out great, and that's always a good feeling. Yeah,
and especially indie films, because I know we're always I'm always a big supporter of indie films, just because it's like they don't have the big budget that some of these films make, and yet they really have to almost try twice as hard sometimes, if not 5 times as hard. And so I will never not give a movie a chance based on any kind of budget, because I've found some of the smallest budget films I actually have become some of my favorites. So yeah, so we're always big proponents to watch indie films on Civil Gore, especially indie horror films.
Okay, so we have a pretty good dismemberment this week. Some really cool titles coming up. Let's get right into it. These are our Blu-ray releases for 5/22/18, our dismemberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't cut off
All right, this first one up, Brian, I have to put a little asterisk beside because it was listed on my Blu-ray releases for this week, which, can always be subject to change. These things get shifted around. And when I went out to Amazon to look at the features, Amazon still had a street date listed of July 24th. So this one may or may not be out this week. This one may be pushed out 2 months ahead. I don't know. But I decided to include it in the rundown just in case, and also because it's such a phenomenal, phenomenal disc. I just wanted to talk about it. So this is the Arrow limited collector's edition of The Last House on the Left, which is a movie I saw way too young to see this type of movie. I saw this right when VHS rentals became a thing. So I was still early to mid-teens, and it really messed me up for a while. Most of the horror I'd seen up to that point was Jason and Freddy, and there was this supernatural element to it, and you knew it wasn't real. But The Last House on the Left was the first time I had encountered a horror movie that was really like real life horror, and that really freaked me out. So this movie, to this day, I don't think I have rewatched it since I saw it that first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, of course, this was from 1972, Wes Craven classic. This one is a Arrow release starring Sandra Peabody, Lucy Grantham, and David Hess. I'll just give you the rundown for those who have not heard of it. 2 teenage girls head to a rock concert for one's birthday. While trying to score marijuana in the city, they are kidnapped and brutalized by a gang of psychotic convicts.
I know, I just laughed at for one's birthday. I don't know.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a Bicentennial Man. Remember that? Little Miss, and one wants to go to the mall. Or so,
Yeah, brutal. Kidnapped and brutalized is probably a understatement here. This is a really graphic and disturbing movie if you haven't seen it. Especially the whole early 70s thing just adds that layer of realism to it. If you've seen the remake, I watched the remake, and it's not nearly as effective just because it's so polished and slick and modern Hollywood. When you see the original with this low budget and this grainy film, it makes it that much more disturbing.
I haven't seen this in a long time too. That's my birth year movie too. So look at that.
Yeah.
72. So I gotta check this out. I'll probably pick this one up when it.
Yeah, check out the extras on this. This is phenomenal. So it's got 3 different cuts of the film, all 2K remastered. It's got a double-sided poster. It's got lobby card reproductions. It's got a new audio commentary by podcasters Bill Ackerman and Amanda Rees. So they've left us an opening to do podcast commentaries.
Yeah.
The ground has been broken. We can do this, Brian.
All right.
It has 2 older audio commentaries that were on previous releases, new interviews, featurettes, and some excerpts from an unfinished Wes Craven short, which sounds really cool.
Oh, yeah. I like when they do stuff like that, you know?
This is a packed disc. Amazon has it for like $31. I think that's probably a steal for like this classic a title and this limited edition, like all the goodies and stuff. I think it's probably well worth it.
Yeah, and I think we need to like really push on this, start pushing on all like our friends like at Vinegar Syndrome and stuff like that, and tell us, hey, you guys got a disc without a commentary? Let us know.
That's right.
We still promised, or should I say, threatened our listeners that we were going to do our own anyway.
Yeah,
so it's like,
yeah, we'll just make commentaries that don't come on the actual disc. You just have to download them and play them while you're watching.
Well, I mean, we've done like our usual like regular audio commentary, I guess, but like we should do ones for not like necessarily. Well, I guess it's the difference is there is we both haven't seen those. We should do one where we actually. Kind of like add something to it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like add some facts, and the other ones are just us usually like being
making
shocked and cracking up. Yeah, making fun of it. So we'll have to do. And we still owe Cody that one that she requested us, although she did warn us that it's it's a bit obscure, the movie, but we'll still have to do that.
I still want to do the one where we act like we made the movie.
Yes, yeah, we got to do that too. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah,
we need to get moving on this.
All right. So next up is Of Unknown Origin. This one's from 1983. This is a Shout Factory release, directed by George P. Cosmatos.
Yeah, I was like, oh, did you just misspell it? Is it really?
No, this one does star Peter Weller, which is
nice.
cool.
RoboCop.
RoboCop himself. Jennifer Dale, Lawrence Dane. A man who recently completed rebuilding a townhouse becomes obsessed with a rat infestation until it becomes an interspecies duel. This has a new 2K remaster, new interviews, and an audio commentary with the director and Peter Weller, trailers, and a still gallery. I have not seen this one.
Yeah, I want to say I did, because so I've been little backstory here. I was, with my dad living in the city when I was growing up. I was always, you hear all these stories about rats, and I've always been terrified of rats. And I remember one, and what really pushed this is I remember my dad and I were walking in the streets in the city because, early on my dad lived in the city when, after my parents got divorced, and so I would go visit him every other weekend, and we were walking on the street, and he all of a sudden said, "Oh, quick, let's go!" And he made us cross the street really quickly. And so I'm like, "Why? What happened?" He goes, "Look," there was a rat over there." And I looked across the street, and I saw it like sitting there, just like this big rat sitting there by the dumpster, just kind of like looking around. And I was like, and I still have the image. It's clearly ingrained in my head as if I was staring at it now. And it still to this day, it like haunts me, and I still can't deal with like seeing any kind of rats. And we actually so when we lived in our recent house before we moved here, our neighbor had rats apparently, and her dog kept dropping these dead rats in our yard. So that really wasn't pleasant either. Yeah, I mean, at least dead rats are a lot better than live ones. But and then another time, I think I was actually, I want to say, was I with Seth? No, I don't think I was with Seth. I think it was some friends. And we were in the city and waiting on the train, and there were basically rats all in the New York City transit system in there. And I remember we're at the edge of the platform. We saw the rats like crawling around like next to the train tracks while we were waiting for a train. And we just saw it come towards the platform we were on and kind of disappear because of the vantage point. And all I said is, "Oh my God, is this thing crawls up and then comes up onto the platform, I'm probably going to have a heart attack." So I literally backed up all the way to the wall and like kind of looked around my surroundings just in case I had to dart away. But, they just went underneath it into some hole. But yeah, so this one I probably I think I might have seen, but I was probably so traumatized at it, it probably knocked out of my head because I'm not a big fan of rats.
Well, I've got a giant rat story too. I
boy.
was dating Olivia. And our little routine when I was dating her, when I came over to her house, was when I was getting ready to leave, we'd go out on the back porch and, kiss goodnight, whatever, be romantic. And so we go out one night as usual, and I look over her shoulder and I see this giant rat sitting in her driveway. And I just freaked out. I screamed. I ran back inside the house.
And you left her out there?
No, I took her with me. She screamed. She ran inside the house. Her mom's like, what in the world's going on? Her mom's freaking out. I said, there's a giant rat in her driveway. There's a giant rat. So the mom goes out there, and I hear her start laughing. And it turned out to be a possum.
Oh, my God. Oh, well, let me tell you. It's funny you said that because... So I was when I was working through college, I was working at a frozen yogurt store. And one morning I got in there early. And I was getting stuff ready for the day, picking out I take out the yogurt cups, put them on the shelf, getting ready. And I guess anyone that knows me knows how klutzy I am. So I proceed to knock over an entire stack of cups. So as I go down to pick them up, staring right at me was what I thought was a rat, because I grew up in New York, so I assume it was a rat. Anything that's inside that's not supposed to be at that size. And so I was, and since I was close enough to it, I would say I was about less than 2 feet away. It kind of like I don't know what the term is, but it kind of went like hissed up, I guess. And I kid you not, leaped over in one shot over this yogurt counter. I mean, I don't know if I used my hand to support. All I know is I was heading towards it. Next thing I know, I was on the other side of it. Ran outside, locked the door. Went next door because I knew I was friends with the guy that ran the cable office next door. And I went in there and I told him what happened. He's hysterical laughing at me. But I'm like, I'm telling you, there was a rat in there. I don't know what it was. But so I'm like, he's like, I can't be a rat. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, it was a rat. So we called the animal services. They come by. So basically now, my frozen yogurt store is now locked now for 3 hours by the time these people come there. They get in there and they basically don't find anything. And I'm like, I'm telling you, this thing was in there. I did not imagine it. And I did not all of a sudden become an Olympic hurdler for no reason. So the guy, they're like, I'm telling you, we don't see anything. I'm like, please look again. So they go in there and they finally find this thing, and it turned out to be an opossum. So I'm like, okay, great. So I see them grab this thing with one of those those poles with the So for some reason, instead of taking it and moving it away, I guess they just basically dropped it off. They just took it out and I threw it over the fence behind the store or something. So I'm like, all right, well, hopefully that means it won't come back. But apparently I find out the next day from my boss that I guess the girl that was working the shift said she was standing there and literally it walked back through the door. It came back through the door.
Oh, my God. Did they have possums up a lot up north?
No, this was in California. I lived in California.
Do they have them up north?
Yeah. You see them every once in a while. I mean, I don't, I've seen... You don't see them as much as you do other things, but yeah, they're definitely around.
They're everywhere down here. We have them in our backyard sometimes.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think I see them that often here. But then again, right now where I'm living, you don't, it's an apartment complex, so it's mostly like any animal you see is usually someone's pet, But so apparently I was like, you kidding me? That girl let this thing back in? And so they had to call animal control again. This time, I think, though, they grabbed it and they, not condone killing animals. I don't know what they did to it, but it definitely did not come back again. But so now people used to make fun of me because, that I thought it was a rat. But, you look at those things right off the bat and they don't look much
like
different.
Yeah, dark, they look like a rat.
Yeah, so this thing, traumatized me. So now, now it's funny. If you know it's a possum and you see it, it's not as bad. But when you don't expect it and you're like literally less than 2 feet away from it and it's almost at eye level with you. Oh my God,
yeah, they're scary looking. They're ugly looking.
Yeah, and this thing hissed at me. It attacked. It went into attack mode. So yeah.
Oh. Well, next up we have one from our good buddy Joe D'Amato, who seems to direct under a different name every time. I don't.
He does.
I'm making him use his real name. I don't put his pseudonyms on here.
Good.
This one is Death Smiles on a Murderer. And Brian, you have to go check out don't check out the poster for the DVD release. Check out the IMDb poster. It's hysterical. It's literally a man holding a cat that is clawing his face off. It's so
Death
bizarre.
Smiles. Okay, let me see. Death Smiles on a What the heck?
It
looks almost. It reminds me of almost like, remember Cycle of the Werewolf when it came out by Stephen King, and it had the pictures.
Yeah, it's like cartoon style.
That would remind me. Yeah, it reminded me of that one where the guy was sitting in the truck and the werewolf came in and just clawed half his face off. That's what that image reminds me of.
It's a vicious cat there, yeah.
It is. Is that a cat or a bear? What the heck?
This one's from 1973. It's released by Arrow, starring Ewa Allen Klaus Kinski.
Which is one of my favorite names ever. And
Angela Bow. A man discovers an ancient Incan formula for raising the dead and uses it for a series of revenge murders. This one has a 2K remaster, a new audio commentary by writer-critic Tim Lucas, interviews, trailers, and a still gallery.
So let me ask, so this Raising the Dead, they raise the cat?
I don't know how the poster ties into this, but apparently it's a very vicious cat. I mean, it's like Pet Sematary. He comes back.
I know. That's what I'm thinking.
Sometimes
you know what? I know. I was gonna say nobody told him Dead was better in this. Obviously, but this was '73. It was before they knew Dead was better.
That's right. Yeah.
They thought Dead was good, but yeah.
Well, the next up, when you thought they have run out of Dracula ideas.
I don't even know where to think on this. This is like something that we would come up with.
Yeah, this one's called The Vampire and the Ballerina from 1960. This is a Shout Factory release, directed by Renato Polselli, starring Helen Remy, Tina Gloriani, and Walter Brandy. A troupe of beautiful young dancers find themselves stranded in a sinister, spooky old castle, not knowing that it is home to a group of vampires.
Once again, I love what these descriptions say, not knowing that happens. I guess the fact that no one was there during the daytime and that they were littered with coffins all over instead of beds.
Yeah.
Didn't clue them in.
Every horror movie takes place in a world where nobody has ever seen a horror movie. Apparently,
that's true. That's you're right. But I guess that's what makes it work. I guess, but still, it's kind of funny. It's like I love this stuff. And look, I want to know, how did the troupe of dancers end up finding themselves in an old castle? Where were they performing?
I don't know.
You know what happened?
This one intrigues me though. I kind of want to see it.
No, granted, it's like it probably sounds like it'll be a whole boatload of fun to see this, but. I'm like, still, it's like, it's so odd. And see, the title is misleading, though, because it says a group of vampires, but this is called The Vampire and the Ballerina. Like, there's one of each.
Yeah. It should be the vampires and the group of ballerinas.
Right.
So this one has a new remaster and an image gallery, so not much to it, but Shout Factory, so it'll be good quality. I think this one, they mentioned that something about a remaster from the only surviving film footage, so this may be like a kind of a rarity.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Now you got me to the point of where now I may go buy it. Because anytime you say rare or special edition or limited edition, I usually, like, my ears perk up, and so does my wallet.
So this next one, I didn't go into all the directors and everything, because it's 4 movies. Yeah. This is the Tremors Attack Pack, and I was kind of disappointed because this one only has the first 4 Tremors films in it. But I guess if you wanted to get a jump start on the series, you could probably pick this one up.
Right, but they're going to come out with the one next year that has the other one in it.
That's why I'm passing on this one. But
yeah, it would have been my pick of the week if it had all of them in it.
Yeah, same here. In fact, if I was going to do any pick of the week, it would be Last House on the Left. But since I don't know that that's actually coming out this week, I just kind of skipped it this week. But
I know. I think maybe the vampire one may win by default.
Yeah, I know. This one is being released by Universal. These span from 1990 to 2004. It includes Tremors, Tremors 2 Aftershocks, Tremors 3 Back to Perfection, and Tremors 4 The Legend Begins.
Wait, was that always the subtitle to the third one? I don't ever remember it being called that.
I don't either, but that's what it was listed. Yeah, Back to Perfection. I don't know what that means.
That doesn't seem right. Like, it seems like so weird, like the title for a horror movie. Back to Perfection. Yeah, and like 5 got left out, and so did the
brand new one. So I think we should do that one for a Slaycation at some point, because it's a good series.
Right,
it's a good long series.
Yeah, no, it'd definitely be. I mean, probably not this year because we kind of already have that to set.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm looking to see if it was if there was any like other title for it, like in the trivia, but I guess it always was that. It just seems like
I don't think I've ever heard anybody refer to it.
Because Burt Gummer returns to his hometown of Perfection. That's
right. Oh, okay.
That's right. Okay, bad on me. Okay.
All right.
Maybe I never saw the third one. Like I said, remember, I know I saw the first 2, I couldn't remember what I saw after that.
I don't think
So
I've
maybe
seen
I missed
any
this
after
one.
the first two. I really don't. I don't think I've seen
I probably didn't either. I just know I saw the first two, and it was a while ago, but I don't remember. Like, part of me wants to say I may have saw 4, but because that didn't come out in the theaters either. Didn't that come straight to video
that didn't
on
come out
Sci-Fi or something? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like a direct cable release.
Yeah.
So the only other releases we had this week were some miscellaneous reissues. I didn't really go into detail because we've talked about them before, but this was like the King Kong 2005 reissue, a reissue of like the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies.
Again? Why did they keep released?
The Tom Cruise Mummy movie again.
Right.
And then we also had a couple of those SRS Cinema exclusive, like super limited editions that only had like 50 copies. And I'm kind of done going over those because I really want to go over stuff that people will actually buy.
Right. I think at next point, the next level of their release thing is going to be that you owe them. It's going to be -1, and you're going to have to provide them.
You have to film the movie and burn it to a disc and send it to them, and they'll give you a numbered -1 nameplate back for it. So our only theatrical release this week, which is sort of a very limited release, but I believe this one's coming out on demand, so you may be able to check it out really soon, is called, depending on where you look, the release list I saw had it listed as Anders Manor. If you look at it on IMDb, it's called The Manor. And it's directed by Jonathan Schimmerhorn, starring Christina Robinson, Rachel True, and Kevin Nash.
So it's a wrestler, Kevin Nash.
Yeah, the wrestler.
And you know what he was famous for, right? But other than wrestling, he was Super Shredder in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze.
Oh, he's taking the Rock approach. He's going to break into film.
He is.
Well, he's already broken into film.
Yeah, no, he's been in some stuff. Yeah.
All right, so The Manor is the macabre tale of mental patient Amy Hunter and the horrific events that follow her release from psychiatrist Dr. Triniak. Amy's mother, Jane, feels it best to immerse her daughter in the warm family atmosphere of Anders Manor, inviting Amy's long-lost family to join them at the manor. The manor, however, has deeper plans for the Hunter family as gatecrashers and cultists arrive as the nefarious and ancient demonic force Akamana goes to work in short order to sow madness and reap blood. So that escalated quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that thing. It's not a good house for a good weekend.
It starts out, you sound like, it's going to be one of those like drama, like slightly scary dramas, and then they start bringing in the cultists and the sacrifice and demons. And, oh my god!
And it looks like Kevin Nash is one of the cultists, which is kind of funny. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I'll check it out. I mean, if it's on demand, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, let's put it this way. I'm sure we've watched crazier things for this podcast. This one actually sounds kind of interesting.
All right, so let's get into our main feature of the night. This was, as we mentioned at the top of the show, a listener suggestion, and what a great suggestion it was. I really loved this movie.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I had not heard of it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, this was like, I mean, we were joking. We were saying, like, this literally could have been called Civil Gore, the movie. And the fact that, so thank you, David, by the way. He did say we would like it, and he goes, you'll see once you watch it why. And like, boy, was he right, because this almost arguably should have been our opening movie. Basically, to start this podcast. It could have been. You know?
It could have been.
I mean, we went with Halloween because it's both our favorites. But still, I mean, this one, we could have started with this, and it would have been so appropriate. Of course, people would have thought that maybe we were only doing horror movies themed to the Civil War. So it may have confused a little people that was the direction we were taking this podcast, because I don't know how many there are of those.
That'd have been a very short podcast.
Yeah, probably short. But there is a sequel to this, and there's the original, so we could have got 3 episodes out of this. but yeah, no. But yeah, I am so. I've heard this movie because, Robert Englund, anytime Robert Englund's in something, you usually hear about it.
I had seen the box cover. I knew of it.
But am I like, it's like, I'm so glad that like this came across, because the fact that we hadn't seen it yet is pretty astounding. And now I'm like, I could see me watching this repeatedly now. This will be in like my repertoire of horror films.
So, of course, we're talking about 2001 Maniacs. This is a remake of the original Herschell Gordon Lewis film 2000 Maniacs from back in the 60s, which we'll talk about soon because I did track that one down and watched it. But this one came out in 2005. It was directed by Tim Sullivan, stars Robert Englund, Lynn Shay.
All right.
Our favorite, Lynn Shay, and Giuseppe Andrews.
He was in Independence Day.
Oh, there you go. Okay. 8 college students traveling to Florida for spring break stumble into a remote town in Georgia where they are set upon by the residents who are out to avenge their deaths by Union troops over 100 years earlier during the Civil War. Now, I do want to say, when you hear that synopsis, you think, okay, it's another one of those movies where a bunch of college kids are together and they're on a road trip and they get sidetracked by hillbillies and then the hillbillies kill them, like Wrong Turn. And we've seen tons of these movies.
No,
right?
but this one has Travis Tritt, so it's different.
No, let me tell you, this movie is legitimately different.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason it's different is because imagine, all those movies, you're trapped in the backwoods with, like a handful of deranged hillbillies. Now imagine if that occurred, but the entire town is deranged hillbillies.
Right.
So you really have no escape. You're not getting stalked around because you're not getting out. You're in a town with 2,000 people in it that are not going to let you leave.
Yeah, and they're all like, like they're not like one person that's like there to help you in any way. They are all on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. So it already takes that kind of tired formula and completely flips it. So don't go in expecting just another run-of-the-mill like slasher. It's not that at all. No. It's almost like a more of a one of those movies where you kind of like stumble into like a cult where everybody around you can't trust anybody, you can't depend on anybody.
Right. Picture it being like either a House of a Thousand Corpses or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but instead of Leatherface and a handful of Sawyer families, it's a town full of the Sawyers. Is a good analogy, to go with.
But anyway, the remake, it's going to be kind of hard to talk about the remake without going back to the original. But I want to kind of save the original for its own after we talk about the remake for a little bit first. But one of the things that I loved about this movie is it takes place almost completely in daylight, for one thing. It's very bright. The colors it's got a lot of color, a lot of brightness. It's got a lot of comedic overtones, but it also has the gore and the violence that we love. So it is kind of disturbing on that level as well.
It's got a ton of gore, which I really didn't expect to have that much gore in it, which I was very pleasantly surprised.
Right, it's got a, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's got a very good sense of humor about it. Yeah. But it balances out with such great kills, and I mean some phenomenal kills in this movie that are just awesome.
Yeah, and it definitely has the Civil Gore 3Bs in it, because I mean big time. So
that was the other thing I was going to say. It's not like a lot of the like the hillbilly movies where everybody's deformed and stuff. No, these are like the farmer daughter.
Yeah.
Like the really hot Southern belles. It looks like an episode of Hee Haw.
It does.
Where all the girls were really hot.
Or like Petticoat Junction, something like that.
Yeah, the guys weren't like deformed. They're just kind of yokels type. They're not. They're still like strapping young men. So I just love that about this movie, that it's, even though the plot sounds kind of derivative, it's really it was really kind of a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of those typical down south horror movies where it's all about a bunch of hillbillies.
Yeah, and what I think I liked about it is it had a really good balance. Sometimes horror movies will just go over the top on gore and then have nothing else. Some will go over the top on the comedy, something and nothing else. Some will go over the top on weirdness and nothing else. This managed to balance it all, and it had a great, so it was really good. So it's like right when you thought you'd be cracking up, and then one moment, and next thing you know, you're like, holy crap, look what just happened, like a head's flying at you, it's like, and it was just like, and nothing felt like it was like cheap or and it was actually some surprises in it, it wasn't for like Tim said, for such an like a basic formula, there were still some twists and turns to it that you didn't quite expect.
As I was watching it, I think I literally had a smile on my face the entire time because I was laughing at just I'm not even saying jokes. I'm saying just like some of the people, like what's his name?
Huckleberry. And he said it, and don't get it wrong, because they've been calling it Huckleberry, and he goes, "It's Huckleberry," and he had this high pitched voice that was funny.
He's got this high pitched girl voice that you have to see to believe. Yeah. It is hysterical, and it's not even. I mean, obviously it is a joke, but it's not played like. It's hard to describe, but like they just play it straight, and it just makes it that much more funny.
Yeah. Oh, and spoiler alert, he's in the sequel, by the way. Huckleberry is back in the sequel.
Of course, he's got to be.
So
you have all these little moments that are just hilarious like that are not like out and out punchline type one-liner things. It's just the characterizations and the performances are what make it hysterical. So I really like that as well.
And I have to say, for what impressed me, right? For one of the things is Robert Englund. Okay, you obviously know him. He's Freddy. Okay, so when you see him in other movies, it's like, oh, it's Robert Englund. He's Freddy. This, he was so damn good. It's like you almost, I mean, dare I say, you like almost don't even think of him as Freddy at all for a moment.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you.
You know, he was so good. It was almost like this role he was born to play just as well as he was Freddy Krueger, I thought.
Yeah.
He was
so
good
in this. You know, a lot of movies when like these guys, these horror stars that are known for other movies come into a different movie, you think, oh, well, that's Robert Englund. Right. And I found myself like halfway through this movie forgetting that it was even Robert Englund.
Okay, good.
Like,
I'm not alone. I was like,
no, you're not
I hope
alone.
I say this, and Tim's going to think, okay, yeah, you're crazy. But yeah, no. He was so good. He just was so natural in that role. And also, same with like Lynn Shay, who pretty much, she could just be in any movie. Like, it was funny. When David had suggested the movie to us, he wrote it. Wrote us a message on Facebook. I mean, he was describing it. I'm like, okay, you know, you said Robert Englund, Lynn Shay, already sold to me. It's like, and they delivered perfectly. That's what I think to me was so fun, is because Robert Englund was just like, I mean, like he could have like made a career off of this almost if he didn't do Freddy. I mean, maybe he wouldn't have gotten the role if he wasn't so big. But I mean, he was that good in this. I think
there's not a whole lot of plot to talk about because basically these kids get detoured into this town. They don't have any idea what's going on, and the town is basically rolls out the red carpet for them, and just they're all Yankees.
And it's funny how they did like drive it. I mean, I don't want to go into too many specific scenes, because this needs to be, if you haven't seen it, you want to discover the joy of this,
right?
Like Ray did. But I loved how they literally like pull into the town and they all come out like literally surrounding them, and it's like it reminded me of that scene. Remember Big Fish? You saw that movie, right?
Yeah.
Like
Big
that
Fish,
part where he just kind of walks up and he's in. All of a sudden, there's this town in the middle of nowhere, and everyone comes out and welcomes him. Of course, he's shared a much
none of
better
them have
fate.
jobs. Yeah, they all come out.
Right.
They're all celebrating. Yeah, this whole town comes out. And they're basically persuade these kids like, you're gonna stop here for the night and join us in our centennial celebration. And the kids are kind of like, okay, whatever. Well,
not for nothing. They were promising them food and beer, and they're college students.
Yeah, they're talking about food, beer. You're getting free lodging.
Hot women.
The kids are like, all right, the hot women is definitely one of the lures that these guys are after. And then they meet up. There's not all these kids don't know each other.
Right.
So you have a couple of different groups. So then you've got that kind of play between them where, there's some hot girls riding in one group and some of the guys from the other group are digging those girls. And so, they're kind of wanting to stay and stick around to see what can happen. So you've got a lot of dynamics there of all these strangers kind of getting together in this town. And the rest of the movie is pretty much them discovering what's going on in this town and then trying to get out.
Right.
So, like I said, not a big, heavy plot, but there's enough little twists and turns in there that it's never dull. Never dull.
No.
This movie is like does not let up from the beginning till the end. It was just very, very entertaining.
Right. And I want to say it's so funny because the movie once it gets to that point, you just get carried away into it and you almost forget even though it was like such a small little role, the Peter Stormare as the professor in the beginning of the movie was great too, because he was so how many movies have you seen him in, and just like that accent, the way he delivers stuff, I forgot, just Like even that was good. Like right off the bat, I'm like, wow. I said, this has got this has got potential right from there. And I thought he'd be in it more. Actually, it was funny. He was kind of like that was it for him. But but the thing is, once it got, you're right. Once it got to that town, it just took off. And next thing you knew, it was like, I was one of those I really didn't want it to end, and I was kind of sad as I saw the time getting close, and I'm like, man.
I'll tell you, when I knew the movie was going to be pretty darn funny was when Eli Roth made his cameo.
Yep.
So yeah, he appears as like the hitchhiker guy, and he's the same character as he was in Cabin Fever.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, that kind of set the tone for what this movie was going to be, and that like it was a nod to horror fans.
Oh yeah.
So if you're a horror fan, you already got that wink wink from the director that basically says this is a movie for you.
Oh yeah, actually, great point. The way you say it that way, yeah, because I did, yeah.
I'm sure you noticed the Kane Hodder cameo later on.
Okay. Yeah, a Kane Hodder cameo. So look at this. You got the heavyweights. You got like you got Robert Englund and Kane Hodder in a movie together, and you got Eli Roth. I mean, you got you.
Lynn Shay, you've got
Lynn
all.
Shay,
You got the big names.
Basically, New Line Cinema's finest.
yeah, exactly.
But
and let me I guess we should explain too, like in what these weren't like Appalachian style hillbillies.
No.
These were like old South Civil War buffs. I mean, there's more Confederate flags per capita.
Yeah, I mean, even Robert Englund's eye patch is Confederate flag.
Even his eye patch is a rebel flag. So this was before all the Confederate flag brouhaha
right.
of, a couple years ago. But yeah, this is like the old South. They're racist as hell. They hate Northerners.
Oh my God, did they ever? Yeah. I mean, which they actually use that word a lot, that they hate Northerners.
Yeah. Which there's still a lot of pockets of the South that are not far off from this. Obviously, this is an exaggerated, very exaggerated stereotype, but I've seen some places that it's not too far off, really.
I got not to the near. I mean, I guess we could tell the story. It's not to the even remotely the same degree as this, but on a trip out there once, I did get called a Northerner in not the nicest terms. Where we were down in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, but it was by another Northerner.
That's the funny thing. It was by a self-admitted Northerner anyway, but he didn't like other Northerners, so
That's why he moved down south to get away from
Right,
them.
yeah, he didn't like to get away from us because we were a little loud, I guess, in front of the Myrtle Turtle roller coaster. But it was Aunt Sue's fault. She was the one that was I mean, we love Aunt Sue, but yeah, she gave us all Northerners a bad name, as the guy said. But
yeah, I mean, I take it. The whole North versus South thing is hilarious to me. I read a book called Confederates in the Attic, and it's a nonfiction book, and it was literally about some of the Southern towns that cannot get over the Civil War, and about still have the Confederate monuments up, and they still have the Robert E. Lee main streets and all this. It was just talking about. It was a very fascinating book about the culture behind the Civil War and kind of a lot of the resentment that still hides in some parts of the South over the whole Civil War, even 100 plus years later.
Wow. Yeah.
So it is a thing down here. I mean, the other part of it too is that you have a lot of Northerners come down to the South to retire,
right,
or move down here because it's cheaper cost of living. And so then you got that resentment there. The people that grew up in the South are like, why are you coming down here in our neck of the woods and complaining about how everything's better up north, but yet you're moving down here. So there's still tension like that. I see that all the time living down here.
Not just in front of the Myrtle Turtle, apparently. But,
not just in front of the Myrtle Turtle. I mean, it is a thing.
Yeah.
It is the North versus South thing is a real thing. Like, it'd be interesting to talk to somebody from like out west or from like California or somewhere to see what their view of it is. Because they probably don't experience that.
I can ask Julie. She's from California.
You can ask Julie. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're
a California girl. Ask her her perception of the whole North versus South thing. Because it's a real thing here. I mean, I know that for a fact. I grew up kind of hating the North in a way, just by default.
I hope I changed your mind once you met. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the things I think about all the time is, like, I would have never met Brian without the Coastal Radio meetup or anything.
Right, that was it.
I don't go up north. I don't go up north really, hardly ever.
And now you've been to New York. You visited New York actually, and you got the taste of.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So It's silly. I mean, obviously, it's a silly thing. Like, we're all Americans. Like, but it is fascinating that there is such a cultural divide there. It's all these decades and decades later.
Well, there's some people still can't get over like a World Series win or loss, you know. So, you know, it's like, so
that's true.
Think about it. We're not exactly a culture that forgets things very easily sometimes. So
that's right. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, to get back to the movie, that's basically the premise behind this is. I'm not going to give too much away, Brian. I'm not going to give anything away.
Yeah, because this is best discovered on your own.
That's best discovered. But yeah, these people are basically very resentful over the Civil War, and they are going to take it out on these young northern Yankee whippersnappers that have come into their town.
Even, which is funny, which the guy Anderson Lee, because they like his last name being Lee, which I thought was kind of a funny nod when they said that.
That was funny.
And he's like, no, he goes, I was born and raised, you know, and he was getting, so, you know, at first part when they twisted that, I said, oh, I see. So maybe he's going to be like the quote unquote final girl or whatever, you know, kind of thing. Let's see what happens with it. But
girl.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. This doesn't, you know, it's not that type of formula, but you know how there's usually someone will survive it. I was like, but I don't know if it'll be him now because he's kind of also kind of one of the big a-holes in the movie. You know, they were all not, there's really not any of the characters that out of that main group that arrives there that is particularly likable, which kind of like, which almost kind of makes you like, you know, you don't feel bad when anything happens, you know, that they're trapped here, but you know.
Well, that's another good balance they do because, you know, a lot of movies, they either make the characters very unlikable so that you don't mind them getting killed off, or they make them so likable that you don't want to see them get killed off. Very few movies kind of straddle that line where I thought this one did. Like, you never get to know these people enough to really care about them too much.
Right.
But you have enough interaction that you don't really want to see I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's almost like you're torn.
Yeah, because you know what I mean? Yeah, like, I mean, maybe one of the girl, like maybe the blonde girl that Anderson Lee is hanging out with, she doesn't seem too bad. I mean, she's obviously breaks the horror, you know, she does the horror rule by having sex and flaunting her boobs. So, I mean, she kind of gets herself targeted, but still, it's like, you know, she was actually pretty down to earth, you know. Even the nerdy guy is kind of like a perv, you know, and like that, you know, and he's kind of like trying to be all cocky. He's like, we own the beach house down there, and you know, and so,
on the beach.
Yeah, on the beach. Yeah, like yeah. I mean, there's like funny like lines that just totally like basically embarrass the people that say them. You know, it's kind of like it's great. Yeah. It's like they don't let you get. Basically, no one gets away with anything in this movie.
No, I'll tell you what. One thing I really like was the interaction between there's some African American couple in here that it's just hilarious to see them like that play between the African American couple and like the typical like totally racist white people.
Yeah, they're like, and it's isn't she's. I thought they were saying something about she was Chinese or something, right? Or something they said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. She's Asian.
But they say like a line, right? They say a line about her.
Yeah, because they call her China Girl.
Right. That was it. Okay, that's right.
I don't think you're ever supposed to feel any sympathy for the town.
No, definitely not.
Like, they are very unlikable. But like I said, they're racist. But what I love about it is the whole time there's this guise of Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
Oh, come on in. Yeah. We're gonna feed you and clothe you and blah blah blah. And it's so fake. And I was gonna ask you this, Brian, about Southern hospitality. Like when you come down to the South, which you've been. And not accepting me and Olivia, because obviously our Southern hospitality is genuine.
Oh, yeah.
But like in general, do you feel like Southern hospitality is a thing? And if it is, does it feel fake or does it feel real to you?
Well, okay, let's put it this way. I mean, but it's weird though, because most of the places I've been have been touristy and theme parks and, you know, like tourist
So you're going to get that anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, but I've never encountered, basically, other than that Myrtle Turtle guy who's from the North, I never expected, you know, pretty much everyone was pretty, I mean, friendly to me. I mean, so, I mean, I didn't, but like I said, it's all, well, think about it. We've been Myrtle Beach, okay, tourist area. We've been to Carowinds, very tourist area. You know, I was in Charlotte, but but that's a big city, so it's it didn't seem any different to me than actually, New York, really. I mean, so it's funny. I guess I haven't been to a true an example where I could really answer that question properly, because like I said, like, where have I been where it's been like, it hasn't been some kind of tourist or vacation spot, which really doesn't give you a good good example, I guess, a good opportunity to see it.
Obviously I'm biased. I think for the most part, most people are very genuine about it. I think for the most part, because a lot of Southern folks are raised in the Bible Belt. They're raised by their mom and daddy to fear Jesus and God and go to church and have your manners and stuff. So I think a lot of that's ingrained.
Right.
And so I think the Southern hospitality thing, I think in general, most people are like really genuine. You still have the old joke about bless your heart really means F you.
Yeah. Or like just like have a Disney day, what that means. But
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, it really is like I think most people are pretty nice in general.
Yeah, well,
in general.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's so hard now because people base, and it's because just the way life is now. People base their, whatever a stereotype is on what they see in the movies or TV or on the internet, and it's like, so they automatically assume that everyone's like almost like caricature of that when they get here. Like, like the whole thing, New Yorkers are rude. Well, no, New Yorkers are rude maybe in movies, but I guarantee you, if you've been to New York now, did you see anything that like what there's rumored rude New Yorkers that you see? No,
other than the driving, which was spot on.
Yeah,
but I was telling my mom's about to go to New York.
Oh, that's right.
For the first time, she's never been to New York City.
Did you get her cronut? Did you order her cronut?
I didn't. I was not able to get her a cronut. She's going to stop by there anyway and see if she can stand in line. But anyway, she was terrified. I mean, she was terrified about this trip because, like, her perception of New York from the movies is that it's this filthy hellhole filled with loud, obnoxious, rude people.
Well, they're loud. I will say that we are loud.
And then she's gonna get mugged, and there's gonna be rats everywhere. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but her perception was kind of like, I'm kind of scared to go on this trip. And I was telling her, Mom, it is not like that. I mean, of course, it's a big city. Right. Yes, it's not going to be spotless. Yeah. I've never seen any big city that is spick and span clean. Yeah. But I mean, our city's not spick and span clean if you actually go walk around in it. But I was telling her, I said, I never ran into. Okay, maybe the one guy that kicked us out of the front of Forever 21. Maybe.
Oh,
okay.
Right, yeah. But I don't think I think he just had a thing against you and me, personally.
I think so. But anyway, but other than that, I did not run into anybody. I did not run into anybody that was rude to me or in any way affected my perception or affected my trip at all. Like, everyone I ran into was super nice and hospitable, and I had a great time up there. Yeah. I would go back in a heartbeat. So yeah, I told her she would have a blast. She has nothing.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it's but like, so that's the thing. It's like, some people will, when they will have this so-called perception of these things from what they see in media or they hear, but it's like, it's so different. Like, because now, granted, one thing is also people's perception of what is rude. Now, New Yorkers, okay, you have a lot of people in that city, and the city, if you think about it in general, is not as big as you would imagine it to be. So there's a lot of people. They're trying to get somewhere fast, so they're walking. So they're looking down. They're not, they're trying to get somewhere quickly, and there's a lot of people on each block. So, that I could see someone who doesn't, thinks, oh, wow, they're rude. They didn't stop to say, hey, how you doing to me? But, most of the time they're literally rushing to get somewhere, and they have no time to get there. It's like,
right.
So,
yeah.
But I get, if you stop someone and say, hey, excuse me, because I'd still do it, and I am a New Yorker. Like, this time, and people ask me all the time. They're like, hey, which is so-and-so street that way, and you'll see them say, oh yeah, sure, yeah, go that way, and so they always do. And actually, I got to tell you, it's funny, it's a little off topic with it, but it's kind of along that lines. One of the friendliest interactions I think I've ever had was in Toronto, Canada. And that's a big city now, right? A pretty big city, right?
Yeah.
So my family went there, and we were looking we were staying in a hotel, and we were going to the Hockey Hall of Fame, which was probably about 6 to 8 blocks from our hotel at this point. We walked about a block the wrong way, and we're a little confused. And this was before really no one had smartphones at this point. You literally had those fold-out maps to, like of the city area to find your way there. And so you weren't really sure where you were going. I remember we kind of waved a guy over, it was in business suit, so he's obviously going to work. And we asked him, I said, hey, which way is the Hockey Hall of Fame? And he kind of pointed. He's like, well, it's about, you kind of a block, you need to go back block that way, and then about 4 blocks this way. And he walked us there. He literally walked us almost the whole way there. I think it was the last 2 blocks, which was straight. And he says, just make a turn. You're good to go. And I'm like, that still stuck with me. And this was now like over almost like 20 years ago. I mean, it was crazy. And it was like, just stuff like that, So, and the thing is, I mean, I don't know if a New Yorker necessarily would maybe, stop and like walk you 7 blocks the wrong way. But they would definitely be happy to tell you where to go if you ask them. Yeah. It's like,
I'll tell you where to go, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like,
I'll tell you right where to go.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I think it's like the New Yorker, that New York accent we have, and that, that like loudness. I mean, but you got to remember, people have to shout over construction things and cabs that are honking 24/7. So we got to get loud.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me tell you about the original, since we need to compare and contrast. Yes. The original was basically everything I thought it would be to make the reboot as good as it was. I don't know how to, well, let me reverse that, because that's kind of confusing. But what I mean by that is, a good remake takes the original source material and just makes it like better. Right. It puts more in, it's bigger, it's better, it fills in some gaps that maybe are a little dated. That's exactly what 2001 Maniacs did for 2000 Maniacs, because 2000 Maniacs, the whole premise, everything is spot on. You have a group of kids, this time it's 6 kids, not 8.
See, well, they upped it. They had to up it for the sequel.
Yeah, but they get detoured, Yankee kids, they get detoured into town. The town comes out, persuades them to stay the night. Everything, like, all that stuff is spot on. The kills are not as frequent in the original. There's not as high a body count.
Well, when was the first one made? When was the first? It was back in the 70s or 60s?
No, 60.
60.
Yeah,
so,
it was 64, I believe.
Yeah, so horror was different back then anyway. So, yeah, that makes sense.
But the kills were still, like, fantastic, the ones they had. And there was stuff in the remake that had a callback, even though the kill wasn't exactly the same. It had kind of a callback to the original.
Oh, cool.
Which I thought was cool. But yeah, very, very close. Very, very close. Like, the remake did not take a lot of liberties with the plot or the whole theme of the movie. It was very spot on. I think there were more Confederate flags in the original.
Yeah, maybe,
probably.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the song that I sung a snippet of at the beginning, which features in the remake as well, but it is played nonstop in the original. Really? I mean, I think they play it 2 full times just in the opening, like 10 minutes.
Because I was going to ask, because that song has been in my head since I saw this movie.
Oh my
Literally,
God, it's
and I'm
hilarious.
putting other people's names in it. I'm like, oh, they will rise again. Who's ever in front of me basically is rising again. You
need to go back and find. I hope they have this. I don't know if there's a soundtrack somewhere, but I'm telling you, that song is like featured heavily. They even have the band is in the credits. It's the Pleasant Valley Boys.
Oh, really? They got their own name
singing it. Yeah, they got their own name, the Pleasant Valley Boys. So, yeah, the original is actually quite fun, and it was. I read that it was Herschell Gordon Lewis's favorite film of all the ones he did, and it's very brightly colored. Again, it takes place almost entirely in the daytime. Everything's a caricature. The characters are like straight out of Hee Haw. They're very over the top, just like the remake was. So the remake just did after seeing the original, I saw them out of order, obviously, but after seeing the original, it impressed me more. The remake impressed me more because it did take all the great elements of the original and then added more to it to kind of bring it up to date. So yeah, definitely well worth tracking down and seeing.
Yeah, and you made a point too, and it's kind of funny. I don't know, I've always kind of felt this way. So there seems to be this connotation, like in horror movies, where most of the time the bad stuff happens when it gets dark and at night. I think there's something really interesting when the bad stuff happens during the day. Because it's, it's like, it's almost this, the nighttime is almost like a transition, used as a transition. you know, in
right,
this, which
yeah.
is kind of a reverse. Usually, you know, you're like in the day, you know, in like a Friday the 13th, right? Everyone's like, hey, dancing, I'm swimming in the pool, in the lake, hey, we're hanging out, we're having a great old time. And as soon as it gets dark, slice, dice, the whole thing. That's what's kind of neat about this one is like where it's like really it's like everything just it's like, you know, there's no time of day there's no sense of freedom or anything. It's you're always in danger, you know. It's kind of interesting.
Well, it's kind of like, it kind of goes back to also to the same thing about the overly kind Southern hospitality. I mean, they're nice to you even as they're killing you,
right? Yeah.
So they kind of have that whole I don't know, there's a disconnect there that kind of heightens the tension because these people are being so nice as they're being so evil, and stuff is happening that normally happens at night that's happening during the day in brightly lit areas. So it's a neat concept.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to try and explain this without giving away any spoilers in it to it. But what I kind of like is it's funny how they kind of show that how kind of oblivious to what's going on the group that arrives there is the group of kids, whereas the audience sees certain things that are going on because they get the camera will go around and show the view, you know, for the like what they're looking at. So, and it's like it could be the back of something that they're seeing, but we're seeing the front, so we know what it is. To them, it looks like something else, kind of thing.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's kind of funny how like certain things are going on. You're like, oh my god, how do they not notice this? But it just kind of like plays along that they're just so oblivious and they're so like I guess mesmerized with the southern hospitality too, like that they don't even realize some of the danger they're in.
Yeah, which also heightens the uncomfortability of it because you, as the audience, know more than the characters in the movie,
right?
Which it was just kind of common in horror,
right? That's
anyway,
common,
but it's very well done in this film to kind of give you that unease because you're like, oh my god, just get out, like, you know, just do something because you know as a viewer what bad things are getting ready to happen,
right? And the fact that they don't even notice like little clues that like the camera will zoom in on, like like a tattoo, let's say, you know, like a very signature tattoo. And that's the thing, nothing is shown in this movie that isn't there for a reason. Like there's no throwaways. Like they're showing you something, zoom in, like pay attention to it because it's gonna clue you into something later, which is kind of, you know, it's you know, they don't always do that in horror movies. There's a lot of fluff thrown into this, and this one for what it is like they do a lot of little tidbits of stuff that really like have like a callback later in the movie. It's almost so much that you probably repeated viewings you'll catch even more.
That's just good writing.
Yeah, it really
good,
is. Yeah, writing. And good directing too, good editing because they picked the right stuff to leave in. And I'm, you know, and actually I ordered right after I saw this. I was like, you know what? I think I need to own this movie. So I looked it up and I found it really cheap. Best Buy, I think, has the original print of it on Blu-ray, and it comes with Ultraviolet. I think there's a newer version that has a digital copy, which I mean, Ultraviolet, digital, they're essentially the same thing, but and it has a bunch of deleted and extended scenes on it. So I'm actually curious to flip that disc in and see what kind of stuff they cut out and what other extended scenes in. So you know what, I'll probably try and check that out in the next couple of days, and next episode I'll try and kind of fill everyone in what was kind of in there. You know, or maybe I'll wait a couple of weeks until everyone gets a chance to see it, and then we can refer back to it. But yeah, this was just a fantastically fun horror movie, and these are the kind of movies that could probably pull someone into the genre, because if they see how much fun you can have watching this horror movie, they might see like, you know what, now I get it. Now I see why people love these horror movies. Now, of course, they'll see a lot that'll disappoint them and say, what the hell are they watching? Why do they like horror?
Yeah.
But if they see this could definitely pull some people into the genre, at least to get that may not have normally went in.
So this one gets the Civil Gore stamp of approval.
Oh,
official.
big time.
Loved it, yep.
Oh, it's got 3 Bs, it's got everything, it's got, wow.
It's kind of our unofficial mascot movie
I
now.
really think it might be.
Yeah.
It might be. So David, thumbs up to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thumbs up. Let's get right into our beer pairing. Brian, you had a really good one for this, as you always do.
Yeah, and actually this one, believe it or not, was a hard one, just because everyone I picked that was probably equally as good, the brewery was closed. So I'm like, I got to think of something. Like I had one, I was looking up the town name. I was looking up, I actually looked up 2001 Maniacs. I looked up Maniacs, and there was a bunch of stuff that could have worked, but the breweries closed down. So then I remembered the festival was called Guts and Glory. So I Googled that and put beer in it, and I came up with this one, which was by a brewery called Station 119, and it's called No Guts, No Glory. And in this movie will definitely show you that if there's no guts, you may not get the glory, because there's definitely a lot of guts in this movie. So, so it's an IPA, which, if you guys don't know yet, Tim and I are huge fans of IPAs. I'm drinking one now, matter of fact. It's got 6.4%, so it's Midland for the percentage, for the ABV. It's got 3 types of hops, Simcoe, Cascade, and Chinook. And the description is a copper-colored IPA, full-bodied and bursting with flavor. The alcohol and body is balanced by equally large amounts of bitterness, which is pretty signature of an IPA. I mean, if you want to describe it. Says the aromas given by Simcoe and Chinook over 2 weeks of dry hopping give all the important fresh hop flavors for this classic American-style IPA. So, in other words, it's basically a good, just standard IPA, which, nothing wrong with that to me. I'm a big IPA fan.
Yeah, it sounds like just a good, solid, middle-of-the-road IPA, like textbook IPA.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. So our 6 Degrees of Decapitation. Last week, we asked you to connect Danny Dyer to Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things. And we did this in 2. Yeah. Danny Dyer was in Borstal Boys with Sean Hattasy.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. You'll know him right away if you see him.
Probably, if I saw his picture, yeah. And then Sean Hattasy was in Mountain Rest with Natalia Dyer.
There you go, 2.
So,
like, her like, 3rd credit, I swear to God, she's been in, like, 3 things. Yeah. Something like that. And
you're still doing it, too. That's what's amazing.
Yeah, I tell you. The world, they say it's a small world, and I tell you, it really is in the world of film, apparently.
So Brian continues his play on names here. We're going to ask you this week to connect Robert Englund to Engelbert Humperdinck.
So, yeah. Have fun.
Jeez.
But I will give you a clue. Believe it or not, this can be done in 3. I don't understand.
I don't know how this
happens. I can never get over that 3. 3 is the best. Like, I want a good 5 or a good 6. I mean, we just can't.
I would kill to see something over 5. Yeah. Like, that would be just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I really thought. I mean, come on. Where in the world could you even find a remote connection from Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself, to Engelbert Humperdinck, who was like a 70s crooner? I mean, where the heck, you know? Like, well, who in the right mind could connect this? But it's been done. It's been done in 3. So have fun with that one. But
all right. So Brian, are we doing Happy Birthday to Me next week, or what's?
Yeah, I guess we'll have to do it next week because the other one will be like almost a week after my birthday. So at that point. Yeah, so we'll do that next week, yeah.
That's a good one. We'll do Happy Birthday to Me.
Right.
Is that right?
Yep, Happy Birthday to Me. And that one's I used to see that all the time. That was on HBO, and it was Melissa Sue Anderson from Little House on the Prairie. I know that's a Tim and Kevin favorite. But speaking of Kevin, who is actually Kevin and Amanda, who are big. I'll let you take this one, but it's part of our Civil Gore family here, and part of your actual family.
Right. Yeah, we had some fantastic news. Basically during the recording of this podcast, because we've recorded this over 2 nights, but my brother Kevin, who was featured in our Maximum Overdrive episode, and his girlfriend Amanda, who was featured on our Jaws episode, have gotten engaged.
Woo!
They are going to get married next year. We are beyond thrilled.
Yes, they are one of those just fantastic couples that are like so much fun to be around. They're both just amazing people, and it's always great when 2 people of that caliber can find each other. And so I am so happy that the news was announced, and I'm glad we got to share it on the podcast too. That the second night of recording was a blessing because it happened in between.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I could not ask for a better addition to the family than Amanda, and her family is super awesome. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and we're very, very excited.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've only met Amanda the one time in person at the Karen strip, but it's like you feel like you've known her for years after 5 minutes. She's one of those people, you know, just after literally 5 minutes, you feel like you've known her forever. So,
and a person that takes joy in whatever she's doing. Does not matter what she's doing, she's having a blast. And that's just positive people. I love being around this kind of people. Yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah. We'll have to have them both back on again for sure.
Yeah, definitely need to. All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. This was a great episode. I knew it would be after we watched the film.
Yeah.
This would be a fun one to record. So we'll see you back here next week.
Yes, and once again, thanks to David for today. And so anyone who really wants to, I mean, as you could see, granted, next week we already have the movie planned, but that does not mean any suggestions we take. Believe me, we have written down or saved somewhere to definitely do. Especially because there are sometimes where Tim and I are stumped. We don't know what movie to do,
exactly.
And we could sure use the help. And any suggestions for anything, really, even if it's a movie that we don't cover right away, but we may watch it right away by a suggestion. So you'll feel free. So this one was like great. We had 2 weeks in a row actually of fantastic suggestions.
So don't take any detours into Pleasant Valley.
And remember, no matter what happens, the South will rise again.
There's a story you should know from 100 years ago, and 100 years we've waited now to tell. Now the Yankees come along.